What's up, guys? Mainly Hockey Cards here, and today I have a video inspired by Chris Sewall, who recently put up a video highlighting the rookie cards of every Super Bowl winning quarterback. For this video, I'm taking a look at the iconic rookie cards and their values of every Conn Smythe winner, a trophy awarded annually to the most valuable player of his team during the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. We're going chronologically and starting in 1965 with Jean Beliveau. Beliveau's iconic Parker's rookie can be found for $400 or so raw, as seen in a recent sale. However, prepare to put your life savings on the line for a gem mint copy. The only gem mint copy I could find was an SGC 10 that sold for $60,000 in 2021. In 1966, Roger Crozier won. This was the first time a player on the losing team won. His raw rookie can be found for only $10 to $15 in fair condition. A BVG 7.5 recently sold for $80, but the only mint 9 sale I could find was $1,000 over a decade ago. A PSA 8 sold in 2021 for $140. In 1967, infamously known as the last time the Maple Leafs won the Stanley Cup, Dave Keon took home the Smythe. You can pick up a raw copy of his rookie in fair shape for anywhere between $75 and $200. However, higher graded copies run a premium. A PSA 8 sold in September for $1,500, and the last 9 sold for $4,100. 1968 saw the second time a player on the losing team won when Glenn Hall took the hardware. Several days ago, a PSA 9 sold for $18,000. However, you can pick up a raw rookie for $100 to $300. 1969, Serge Savard wins for the Canadiens. Savard is pretty cheap. His raw OPC rookies can be found as low as $20 to $30. The last PSA 10, though, sold for just about $4,000 in July. 1970, Bobby Orr. Only fitting we go with his Topps USA Test rookie. There aren't a lot of raw copies of this card available. There was a PSA 4 that recently sold for $6,000. A PSA 8.5 recently did $86,400. However, a PSA 9 copy sold for over $200,000 in 2019. And then there was also a sale over $270,000 in a BVG 10. 1971 saw Ken Dryden win. The famous goaltender's OPC rookie can be found in a low grade or raw for a couple $100. However, the last PSA 10 sold for just under $9,000. 1972, we have Bobby Orr again, so we can skip over. 1973 was Yvon Cornwallis, whose name is misspelled on his rookie card. It runs a few $100 raw. The Roadrunner's last PSA 9 did a surprisingly low $2,300 in 2021. For 1974 and 75, we have Bernie Parent, the famed Flyers legend. Parent's 1968 OPG rookie can be found under $100 in rough shape, but a PSA 8 did $5,500 in July 2022. This was an all-time high sale, outselling the PSA 9s from well before it. In 1976, Reggie Leach, albeit on the losing team, secured the third consecutive Conn Smythe for the Philadelphia Flyers. You can pick up a half-decent raw copy for $10 to $50. The last high-graded sale, a PSA 8 of this card, sold for $600 in October 2021. In 1977, Guy Lafleur kicked off a 3-year Montreal Canadiens reign of the Conn Smythe. His OPC rookie can be found for $300 to $500 in a mid-grade copy, while a PSA 10 in August sold for just shy of $32,000. 1978 was Larry Robinson. A PSA 10 OPC rookie last sold in 2018 for $5,655. You can pick up a low to mid-grade for around $100, and even a PSA 8 won't break the bank at about $500. 1979 was Bob Gainey's turn. You can pick up a raw OPC copy for $10 to $50, a PSA 8 for $500 to $600, and I couldn't access any historical sales data on his rookies. Kind of weird. Anyways, 1980, 4 years of Islanders dominance, starting with Brian Trottier. A PSA 10 OPC rookie sold for over $14,000 in 2021, but you can pick up a raw copy for $15 to $50 and even mid-grade copies for under $100. 1981, Butch Goring. His all-time high OPC rookie sale is $950 at a PSA 9 in 2021. You can pick up raw copies for $10 to $20, and even a PSA 8 at around $200 to $300 is not out of the question. 1982, the late great Mike Bossy. Low-grade raw OPC copies can be scooped at $25 to $50, mid-grades at $300 to $500, and the last PSA 10 of his sold for $43,200 in November. 1983, Billy Smith, a PSA 9 OPG rookie, did just over $2,600 in March, and that's really not a lot compared to most of these guys. A mid-grade copy can be found for $100 or so, and raw low-grade copies are as low as $10 to $15. 1984, Mark Messier. Yes, Mark Messier won a Conn Smythe before Gretzky. His raw O-Pee-Chee rookie sells for about $25 to $50 raw. A PSA 8 goes for around $400, and the last PSA 10 sold for $13,800 in November. 1985, Wayne Gretzky. An O-Pee-Chee rookie, raw and altered or not, you're going to pay at least $300, $400, $500 at minimum. Let's skip everything in between for a good laugh and realize that the last PSA 10 version sold for $3.75 million. You can pick up a nice eye appeal mid-grade copy for around $2,000 right now. In 1986, St. Patrick Roy, he's got the names, he's got the hardware. An O-Pee-Chee rookie of his raw will run a couple $100 in decent shape. A PSA 9 recently sold for just $720, and the last PSA 10 sold for just $3,700 in October. A pretty low sale for that card. 1987 is Ron Hextall, the second flyer in a row to lose the Stanley Cup but win the Conn Smythe. You can find a raw copy of his O-Pee-Chee rookie for as low as $3 to $5. A nicer raw copy may be $15 to $30, and a PSA 9 for $60 to $100. A 10 sold in August for just $300. 1988, Wayne Gretzky, that's a skip. 1989, Big Al McInnes. Raw O-Pee-Chee copies can be found for $10 to $20 with regularity. PSA 8s for $50 to $60, and the last PSA 10 sold in June 2021 for just over $1,000. 1990, Bill Ranford. You can pick up his O-Pee-Chee rookies raw for literally a few dollars. PSA 8 is around $75, and the last PSA 10 went for around $430 in March 2022. 1991 and 92 are owned by Super Mario Lemieux. Raw and low-grade O-Pee-Chee copies are $200 to $400. Last PSA 9 sold for $2,600, which I think is relatively inexpensive in comparison, of course, to the last PSA 10 that sold for $45,600. 1993, St. Patrick, that's a skip. 1994, Brian Leetch wins it for my favorite team, the New York Rangers. O-Pee-Chee or tops, raw rookies sell for a few dollars and max out at about $250 to $300 in a PSA 10. 1995, Claude Lemieux. His O-Pee-Chee rookies are a couple bucks. PSA 8 just sold for $15. A PSA 10 last sold for $150. Pretty cheap, the player and the card, I guess. 1996, the year of my birth, Joe Sakic takes the trophy with the Avalanche. His tops and O-Pee-Chee rookies, like Leetch's, run only a few dollars raw, but his tops PSA 10 takes the cake, with the last sale being just north of $2,800. 1997, Mike Vernon. Another 1987 O-Pee-Chee rookie who can be found for a few dollars raw. And a PSA 10, about $140 was the last sale. That's not a lot. 1998, Steve Yzerman. Raw and mid-grade O-Pee-Chee copies can be found under $100. A PSA 10 has a little more, last selling for $4,000. 1999, Joe Nieuwendyk. You can find his O-Pee-Chee rookie for just a few dollars, and a PSA 10 sold in December for just over $400. 2000, Scott Stevens. A bruising defenseman, Stevens has mid-grade O-Pee-Chee rookies for $10. A PSA 8 last sold for $45, and a PSA 10 last sold for $450. 2001, St. Patrick. Still winning Conn Smythes 15 years after his first. 2002, Nicholas Lidstrom. For the first time, we have a few rookies to choose from, and I'm picking O-Pee-Chee Premier. A PSA 9 is just $15. A PSA 10 in December sold for just $90. 2003, Jean-Sebastien Giguère on a losing team. A 1994 Parkhurst rookie of his can be found in dollar bins across the world, and a PSA 10 sold for, get ready for it, $2.52 back in December. The previous one sold for $10. 2004 saw Brad Richards win, and the Tampa Bay Lightning raise the Stanley Cup for the first time. Richards' 1997 Upper Deck rookie can be found in dollar bins everywhere as well. A PSA 10 copy last sold in 2013 for $79. 2005, no one. It's a lockout. 2006, Cam Ward as a rookie wins the Conn Smythe. Pretty crazy. Still, he was then stuck on a pretty bad Hurricanes team for most of the rest of his career. His Young Guns can be picked up for less than $5 raw, and a PSA 10 sold in September for just under $40. 2007, Scott Niedermayer, the last from the Junk Wax era. I'm going Upper Deck French on this one. Again, a card that can be scooped for under $1 raw, but in a PSA 10, last sold for $210. 2008, Henrik Zetterberg. A raw Young Guns runs about $350 raw. The last PSA 10 sold for $758 in December. 2009, Evgeny Malkin. His true Young Guns, not to be confused with his Young Guns checklist, is about $275 raw and $575 at PSA 10. Honestly, this seems pretty low, but maybe that's just me. 2010, Jonathan Toews, Captain Serious, about $150 to $175 raw, and the PSA 10s are all over the place, but the trend seems to be at around $500. 2011, Tim Thomas, not a fan of Tim Thomas. Long story, we won't get into it. You can pick up a raw Young Guns for under $30. The last PSA 10 sold for $165. 2012, the end of the world. Jonathan Quick makes his presence known, and he does not have a Young Guns. We're using his Future Watch out of just $9.99. The last sale was $375 in November, and the BGS 9.5, the highest graded sold that I could find, sold for just under $800 at the end of 2021. 2013, Patrick Kane, anywhere between a $150 and $250 raw Young Guns, and much like Toews, his PSA 10 prices are all over the map. I think it's right around a $1,000 card right now, given the average of the last few comparable sales. 2014, Justin Williams, Mr. Game 7. His Young Guns is doing quite well at about $30 to $40. His last PSA 10 Young Guns sold in 2017 for $84, and Card Ladder suggests that now that's about a $200 card. 2015, Duncan Keith, $20 raw Young Guns and about $150 on PSA 10. 2016 and 2017, Sid the Kid, Sidney Crosby. A raw copy of his Young Guns rookie is about $1,200 raw, and last sold him a PSA 10 for just under $2,800. Fun additional fact, a BGS 10 just did $6,900. 2018 is Alexander Ovechkin, fitting he's right after Crosby. His Young Guns is about $1,400 raw, $6,500 was the last PSA 10 sale, and a BGS 10 of his also recently sold, but for $12,500. 2019 is Ryan O'Reilly, who in my opinion is a terrifically undervalued and underappreciated player. You can pick up a raw Young Guns for $20, and a PSA 10 last sold in March for about $186. 2020, Victor Hedman, who has picked up a lot of hobby love in the past couple of years. His Young Guns raw is about $40, and he had a PSA 10 last sell for $212, and before that, $460. 2021, Andrei Vasilevsky, currently about $200 raw, and a PSA 10 last sold for $432 in December. Lastly, 2022, Cale Makar, $300 card raw, $750 in a PSA 10. That was a lot. Hopefully you guys learned a thing or two along the way and enjoyed the video. This took a lot of time and research, so if you did indeed enjoy the video, consider leaving a like and subscribing. It's free, helps the channel out a ton, and you can always change your mind later. Have a great week, everyone.